A beginner documents his quest to become a scratch golfer. Episode 896.
This is Golf Smarter.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Jerome.
Hey, Fred, how's it going?
It's going well. This is going to be fascinating for me because you're actually in a position that I almost was when I started this podcast. Now, I started this podcast in 2005. I started playing golf. I had been playing golf about 5 or 6 years at that point. And I was looking for free lessons, basically. So I started calling teachers and asking them, would you like to be on my podcast? And they're going, what's a podcast? It was, it's like, well, I couldn't say, well, on your iPhone, because there was no iPhone in 2005 when we started. No, it's going to be on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. And they're like, what are you talking about? Anyway, iTunes? You heard about iTunes? Nope, never heard about iTunes. But anyway, I was new to golf. And so I was, curious to learn as much as I could. But I had a sense of what I was doing. What are you doing? That was a long way to get to this question, but what is it that you're doing?
That's a great question. And so my main goal is obviously to become a scratch golfer. But the whole caveat is I'm starting from scratch. I've never really played golf before, and trying to embark on this arduous journey toward that zero handicap, and basically partnering up with the greatest coaches in the world to try to get me there. High level.
Yeah, right. What do you think about when you say, I want to be a scratch golfer or reach scratch? What does that mean to you? How would you define that?
Yeah, so I think, to be a scratch golfer, the handicap is like 0 is from my first inclination, but also do it in like a regulation course where it's not like, I think in my YouTube channel right now, I've only been to like these par 3s where it's like 80 yards to the pin. And so scratch golf to me is like become like an elite athlete, zero handicap in a more regulation type course consistently. And so whatever that takes, I am willing to do.
Okay. And you're really starting from, like you said, from scratch. You've never played golf before?
So I think on my first episode, I gave the disclaimer that I was maybe like 15 to 20 days in. But besides that, with 15 and 20 days in of like, I went to the range, I was hanging out with friends, and then I hit like a ball or two. So nothing like serious or anything of that nature. But I think I was maybe even worse than when I started this channel throughout those 15 days. And so more or less, I would say scratch. But those 15 days basically ensued me to kind of pursue this just because I essentially got one good shot. And I was like, yep, I'm pretty much addicted to this game now.
That'll do it. One good shot is the thing that brings us all back, as we can have a real frustrating day. And then all of a sudden we have a good shot and go, I love this game. So did you play video golf as a kid? Wow. I'm really baffled by this journey, but what launched it?
Yeah. So I've never done anything golf related, never watched golf, never played any golf video games or anything of that nature before picking up the club. I think, so my background, like I'm a big like basketball player. I basically started playing basketball since the age of like 4, played it all the way to varsity basketball, had opportunities to kind of potentially go play college. And then after college, I think I was always like striving for something relatively competitive, and my body kind of wasn't geared to play basketball and try to be an elite basketball player anymore. And so I picked up golf, realized it was like a really good game just by yourself. And so you could always kind of just grind without really any limitations on like other things. And so this is kind of the alternative to like my inkling for something super, super competitive again, like my olden days. And so now I'm here.
Wait a minute. How old are you?
It's turned 28.
28. So don't give me this olden days crap. Okay. So you played basketball as a kid. And the highest level of basketball, competitive basketball you played was high school, college?
Yeah. It was varsity high school, and was trying to play basketball at a D1 college. I think I missed the tryout or like the cut line by like one game in regards to like performing. And then I think a couple of D3 schools were like in the roadmap, but I kind of figured, and I've kind of told this to people, I was like, all right, am I going to go to the NBA? And then I just looked at LeBron James and I was like, no. So then I just decided I'm just going to go to college for academics. And then I went to UC Berkeley, and then kind of just done engineering there.
Oh, okay. But you didn't play basketball at Cal.
No, not at all.
Didn't even try to walk on.
It's funny because like a lot of people, I would play with some of the players at like open gym, and it was really fun, like, you know, playing with college players. And I was up to par in a little bit, but and some of my friends were like, yeah, just go try out. But I think doing engineering at Berkeley was pretty intense for me. And so I just didn't have any time to kind of accommodate anything besides like studying engineering. And so kind of resulted to kind of do that. Yeah.
Okay. So you watched LeBron on TV and said, yeah, I'm never going to be able to compete at that level. When you were at Cal, did you happen to know Colin Morikawa? Because he was at Cal as well, and now he's one of the elite players in the world.
I didn't know Colin or anything. Like during that time, I didn't even like have an eye toward golf, so I didn't know literally anyone except Tiger Woods. And so once I joined this, and it was funny because the first YouTube video, and I was like, oh, I really want to like emulate somebody, and I was like, I got recommended this guy. I was like, who's Colin Morikawa? And I was like watching him, and I was like, man, I really like this guy's swing. And then I did some background, and I was like, oh, this guy's from Berkeley. I think he's like a few grades under me, but no, I didn't know him at Cal, but I could say I love his swing for sure.
No, because in one of the videos, you're working with your coach, and he says, do you want to be Colin Morikawa or do you want to be Matthew Fitzpatrick? And I got the sense you're going, I don't know who those guys are. And it's like, I don't know what you're asking. What do I want to be like him? I don't know what you're asking. It was good assumption there. So wait, if you don't know who these guys are, these elite golfers in the world, and you've never watched them, what made you think that you can compete on that level?
I don't know if I could compete. I just know I want to get really, really good at golf. And I think maybe
we all do.
Well, maybe it's actually a good thing that I don't watch them, because I watch LeBron a lot, and maybe I'm just disguised by not watching them. All right. So I think
kind of like an ostrich. It's kind of like an ostrich sticking its head in the ground going, there's nothing wrong with the world. I can't see it. I mean, it's like, I can't. Excuse me. Okay, so I tell me about your process of picking a teacher.
Yeah, so I think so. As my channel kind of resembled, I have a few teachers in the realm of teachers that I try to like pick. I guess that isolates one specific aspect of the game. So the mental side of things, is Dr. Cody Commander. He was a mental officer for the Tokyo Games. And so I was actually kind of talked to a couple things, and we essentially kind of just vibed a little bit. And he was like, yeah, I have experience in golf. And I was just, our conversation initially was great. For my full swing, I really wanted to focus really on someone who's really good at fundamentals initially, just for the way things process. Right now, I'm still kind of figuring out who's the best coach for me. I think I'm 2 months in. And so, right now it's Mike Woodruff, and, he's been really helpful in certain things, but I'm still trying to figure out like the best coach in regards to like how I learn. I think there's so much information right now coming at me. There's a lot of things that's changing in my swing, my body, and all this stuff. And so I think, that journey in itself will be an entirely different journey of like trying to find the perfect match. And then for my putting coach is Derek Oweta, who's Xander's. And so that was just like, I got to get this guy. And it wasn't like, I didn't really have like, I want to look for this specific thing in a putting instructor, because like I said, I was kind of like blinded of like what the start game is. And so, that was kind of more of like, if he's teaching somebody who's really good, and has other people under his belt, then it's probably going to be a good fit. And like personality wise, me and Derek really do really well together. I think his background is in basketball too. And so we kind of vibed. And then for my body, I just kind of reached out to like the best physical therapists and sports performance specialists in my area. And right now it's like Catalyst Sports Performance and Physical Therapy. And so I think there's a lot more people that's going to join the channel that I haven't shown yet in the next couple of weeks, which I think is going to be exciting. But that's kind of like my initial process in the first 2 months on this journey.
Too many more questions that I need to go over, and we're going to do that. But we have some great sponsors, and I know I'm warning you now, please don't fast forward through these commercials. With these sponsors want to be part of this podcast, so give them their time, and we'll be back. Jerome, your process of finding various instructors to work with, did you start with a sports psychologist? Or did you start with the swing mechanics or the physical fitness? I started
with the full swing coach. I think in my initial journey, I was like meeting with a couple of people there. Wanted to solidify that for at least the initial term, like the short term. And then I think that kind of led me to a lot of conversations with other people. And so it was that person first. And then the putting coach was kind of like in the works coming in. But then that started branching out because I actually had like a shoulder impingement and then a fractured patella, like right before this journey. And so I was like, okay, I need to fix this part of my body to, get to a certain level, because a lot of these people are like, yeah, you just need to turn your hips or do this with your shoulder. I was like, oh man, I can mentally know what to do, but it's weird because I can't get there, or there's like slight pain. And so I was like, okay, this is kind of just a necessary, mandatory thing. And so the physical therapist and the sports psychologist kind of came after that. I think the sports psychologist started creeping in once I was getting like relatively okay in my swing, where I'm like, oh my God, now I'm just super frustrated. And so I think things have kind of just residually kind of entered the channel based off of like certain events that's happened in my journey.
And you said you're 28 years old, you went to Cal, engineering degree, so you're probably out of school now for 5, maybe 6 years, right?
More or less, yep.
Yeah. So did you get a job right out of college? What were you doing? Where were you living?
So after Berkeley, I lived in what's called San Francisco. Mainly just worked in tech, which is a classic thing. And was a data analyst, and then became a data scientist, and then software engineering. And so did those in combination with some business roles. And so kind of had like both sides of the spectrum, and then moved from like San Francisco, and after living there for about 2 to 3 years, moved to New York, lived there about 3 years. And then the instant I decided I'm going to do this, I just bought plane tickets and flew to San Diego so I could play golf all year. And
this, okay, you're really blowing my mind. So you decided, I'm just going to chuck all of this. Probably you worked for some tech company that paid you well, and you cashed out on that. But I'm just assuming. But you decided, I'm going to do something crazy, and I'm just going to move to San Diego and start playing golf. And I'm just assuming your parents are going, you what? You're doing what? Or have you even told them that you're doing this yet?
Yeah, it's kind of comical because I'm actually still working my full-time job, and so
Oh,
I'm a software engineer at a startup, which is like very high pressure because there's only 6 of us, so we're trying to build this thing, and so I
so
work
that's
East Coast.
18 hours of each day.
Yeah, I work about 10 to 12 hours at my job, and then the remainder of the day I play golf. And so I wake up at 4:30 a.m. every day, and then I basically code for about 10 to 12 hours, which only brings me about to 2 to 4 p.m. And then from there until 10, I'll play golf.
Wow. Okay. And your parents?
Sorry?
What do they? And your parents? What do they
Um,
know about this? What do you?
I don't think they know it yet. I haven't told them about my entire.
Okay.
But
All right, and I'm assuming golf was never part of your family's background either.
oh no, I think they think golf's the most boring sport of all time.
Where did you grow up in the Bay Area as well?
No. So I'm Filipino and Spanish, but I was born in Japan and then moved to the
Mm,
Philippines, and then I moved to Canada, and then from there moved to the States, bounced around like every other year, um, in the Bay, and then from the Bay, the New York and San Diego trajectory.
mm, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, whose idea was this for you to create a YouTube channel that will follow your journey on starting with never touching a golf club, not even knowing what to put in a golf bag, and what everything you're putting in a golf bag, what it does? I mean, I'm assuming that just from watching the first couple of videos. Whose idea was this to create this journey on YouTube?
Oh, it was completely mine. I think like on YouTube, I think there's a lot of great instruction, but I think what was lacking, especially for me, just empathetically thinking about myself as like a beginner who didn't know anything, like I'd watch a lot of these great instructors, but they really weren't being asked like questions of like a beginner or like, oh, I'm like so new to all this. How am I going to modify it to like my swing? And so I thought like, not only, I would love to get better at golf, but, provide like a channel and medium where people can, relate exactly how like when they're in those shoes, they're like, oh man, I'm a beginner. Like, this guy's saying a lot of great stuff, but I don't really know how to comprehend all of that. And, you can see in my videos, I'm kind of like maybe lost sometimes, like, oh, and maybe asking the
Maybe,
most like simple.
maybe you look lost a lot,
um,
and I wanted to ask you about that. But go
yeah,
ahead. I'm sorry.
no, that's totally fair. And that's exactly, like I said, full transparency on like every single aspect of the game. And so I was thinking eventually, I'll go through this journey where I'm a beginner, maybe go into intermediate, and hopefully maybe in a couple of years be more advanced. And so having that like journey that people could follow, and like at any time and any moment in the channel, they could just drop in. I was like, oh, I'm actually an intermediate right now. Let me go in this area, and they could like relate. Or I'm a beginner like Jerome. In the first 5 months, I could just start watching these videos, or like, oh man, I'm already almost scratch. Maybe I'll go into the advanced section. And so I feel like that would, I guess in my mind, was like a huge value add that, could provide great value to like people watching, in just a little different form from like all the videos out there. And so, yeah, that's what I was initially thinking when I was like, oh, let's maybe create a YouTube channel around it.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started doing the podcast, and I was for many years into it, and hopefully I still do. But when I hear a term from an instructor that I'm not familiar with, I'm fine with going, wait a minute, I'm not familiar with that term. Can you please expand on that and tell me what that means? And so I get the whole thing of coming at it from somebody who's somewhat of a beginner. But again, I've been doing this now. I'm in my 18th year of talking to teachers. I've learned a lot, and I
Yeah.
still feel like I'm on a journey. I was never on a journey to become a scratch golfer. But last year I did achieve becoming a single digit handicap golfer. And that, again, I was kind of surprised. But after all these interviews and learning so much from so many different people, I've been able to incorporate a lot of that, and it's helped me a ton. So I wish you well on your journey, and we're not done talking about this journey. Okay, it was your idea, but you have a cameraman. Do you have a crew or just a guy who's following you around with a camera?
Yeah, I have a few people helping me out. Like, I just kind of like reached out to a couple of people in my area. I was like, hey, do you want to help like just film me at times? And so it's nothing like professional. I don't have like an agency or anything of that nature. I just like ask a couple of people, hey, I'm doing this thing. Like, do you want to come out and just film me when I'm going to the course or like lessons? They're like, yeah, sure. And like a few people helping with edits. And because like initially, like my past, I liked editing videos, and I was like, oh, I could probably do some of this a little bit, but
you're running out of hours in the day. When are you going to edit this thing? It's like, when are you going to do that?
Yeah. And so I just reached to a few folks like, hey, do you want to help like edit? I'll give them a little direction in regards to like the voice, the tone of voice, like, just like express. And I think like right now, like we're not even doing too much edits because I was like, let's just make it super, super raw and transparent so that people can, not get like a lot of cuts. I think, a lot of YouTube videos like, oh, let's just make crazy cuts, the best parts. And I'm like, no, leave everything, all bad, all good. Like, and so that's kind of like reduced like editing time as well, because we don't need like the crazy Mr. Beast edits or the crazy other stuff edits. And so, just a few folks. And
sometimes you have two cameras going. I see you have a cameraman and you have an iPhone or you have a phone on a tripod that's getting a different angle. So you do have to do some edits going back and forth on that. I did notice that. As a video editor, those are the things that I notice. Like, what are you shooting with? Who's shooting? Is he on it? Is he using a gimbal? So, all right, another timeout, and we'll be back after this. Now you're what, 2 months into this journey?
Yeah, I think
approximately.
Episode 63. That's basically my I'm like, how many days? 63 days. so
you're doing an episode every day?
Every day. Yeah.
Wow. And congratulations, you're getting a lot of traction on YouTube. I'm quite surprised of how many people are subscribing and commenting. That's pretty impressive for a ranked beginner, because golfers don't have a lot of patience. Experienced golfers, from what I have witnessed, experienced golfers don't have a lot of patience with brand new players. So it's a good thing you're going out to these par 3 courses, where a lot of beginners are getting their start, and trying to figure things out. But one of the last video that I watched is you working with your swing instructor, Mike, who, I don't know why, but he sounds like my eye doctor. I keep wanting to go, number 1, number 2, number 1 or number 2, number 2 or number 3. But he's very patient with you. How did you enlist him with this concept of, I'm going to become a scratch golfer and I'm going to document my journey on YouTube? And he said, I'm all in. No, how did that happen?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I've gotten a couple of those questions too, and I more or less just cold called like these instructors and or emailed them and just said, hey, like I'm new to this game. I'm trying to do this whole scratch to scratch thing, and I just kind of like invoked to them like, I'm really hardworking. Like, you're not gonna get a student in regards to like, I will like blood, sweat, and tears is like the definition. And so I think they were just also just bought into the journey. And then after kind of seeing like my relative dedication of just like constantly practicing, hitting them up at 2 a.m. with like questions, they got more and more bought in. And so, wow. But he was like right off the bat was like, yeah, like this is crazy. And I get a lot of emails like that. It's like, you're pretty crazy, but I'm in it. And so I think 95% of my emails are like that.
I wouldn't be surprised. That's what this podcast is basically going. You're crazy, dude. You're crazy. And so when Mike said, yeah, I'm in, here's my hourly rate, or he's like, he's just doing this for the fun of it.
No, I still, pay these coaches.
Okay, good. Okay. So the last video I watched with you and Mike was the one where like he was giving you information based on how to break 100, how to break 90, how to break 80. So that was probably just a couple days ago as we're recording this. And a lot of the stuff that he was saying to you, he would ask you a question and you'd kind of nod your head. But I get the sense that you had no idea what he was talking about in many of these things. Like, and he goes by pretty fast. He's really, because you're asking him for so much information all at once on trying to absorb this, that he's saying stuff that, am I right in assuming that you're kind of lost in a lot of things that he talks about?
For that one specifically, like I definitely absorbed the information, and I understand this because like in previous episodes, he did mention those things to me in parts. And so he was kind of just putting an aggregation like it into this lesson. And so for me, it was kind of review, which was great. And so that was kind of like nodding. But the great thing I think about this journey and documenting it is like, once I get home, I'll just review it again. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes for sure sense. Or I just need to like recall. But yeah, I think the majority of the things has made sense. I think my biggest disconnect at times is like, I'll mentally get it. I'll know like, okay, this is exactly what I need to do. But it's like my body isn't following suit yet. And so I'll like, all right, I need to get in this position, do this. This will lead to this type of shot. But going a million miles an hour and hitting a ball in a millisecond, I think is like the biggest struggle. I'm like trying to get all those things and do it in like less than a second has been the biggest disconnect for me. But similar to like, I guess this is why I'm not super discouraged, is like when I was playing basketball, that's pretty much the process where I would just do the same thing over and over and over. Eventually I'm like, okay, I'm good enough to do it. So I have that frame of reference. But yeah, to answer your question, mentally, I understand, but physically it hasn't followed up with what I'm learning.
And has your sports psychologist let you know yet that the more you think about it while you're doing it, the less success you'll have?
Yeah, actually today,
is that right?
An episode with that same concept. And so he gives like mental exercises and like stuff to think about in regards to like cognitive like abilities, in regards to like, don't think about all this, but you will basically have that in the next couple of months since you're trying to learn everything. But eventually it's going to be so rinse and repeat that you're just not going to think about it, and your body's going to just follow suit. And so that's helping me put things into mind, because I'm just going at, I'm like, oh my God, after 5 hours, I still can't get this. And they're like, you have to like put this in relevance. You're 2 months in, like you shouldn't be acting like you're a scratch golfer yet. And I think that's like my mental mindset all the time. Like I need this now. And I'm like, I think I should be here, but relatively, I think I'm okay.
Well, it's something that personally for me, like I said, this is all about me becoming a better golfer and getting all this information. And I was probably into my 16th or 17th year of doing this when I got that concept of, when you think about what you're doing, it's not good. I mean, like I always talked about the mental game, and I always considered the mental game as how I don't beat myself up after a bad shot and just let that go. But then all of a sudden I made this subtle adjustment to not thinking about the things I need to do during the swing and just letting my body do what it does, that all of a sudden I became a better golfer. And that's when my index dropped like many points in just a few months. I was playing so much better golf. But golf is not like a fixed thing like basketball. The court is the same size wherever you play. The basketball hoop is the same height no matter where you play. Every golf course you're going to approach, every golf course, every golf shot, even if you play the same course over and over and over, every golf shot is going to be a different shot than you've done before. So it's not like you can just pull that back from where you were in the past and say, okay, I've made this shot before. It just doesn't translate. So thinking about all those things can make it really difficult.
Yeah. My putting coach, I think by maybe 3 weeks in, was like, this is way different from basketball because you're not training for one game. You're basically training for maybe like 15 games into one, where you have your long irons, short irons, you got your putting, long putting, short putting, driver, all these different things, and they're slightly different and nuanced. And then combine that with the permutation of different courses, different positions. And so he's like, I mean, I applaud you. Let's get on this journey, but just be aware this is not like basketball, even though I'm a basketball player. And then I was like, I'm in it.
I love that he says, I applaud you, because when he turns his back, he's going, who is this guy? What is he doing? You're right. People are proud of you. You're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. That's what I loved about it. I watched the video. I'm going, oh no, I have to talk to this guy. I have to figure out what the heck he's thinking about. Okay, we're going to take another time out because I have another question, but it'll lead to a longer conversation. So we'll be right back. Let's hear what's going on in Golf Smarter Mulligans. So the first round that I watched, you go out for the first time on a par 3 course. First of all, dude, you're driving in a cart. Par 3 course, you can walk the golf course. Or is that because the cameraman wants to be not have to walk?
Yeah, I guess these par 3 courses, they won't allow me to walk with a camera person or a spectator, and so it's like walk,
slow everything down.
Yeah, so I have to get a cart every time, and I'm like, oh my god, it's cutting through my budget. But yeah, no, that's kind of.
Do you have a budget here? Do you have after 5 years of doing this every single day, I'm going to explode. I just need to take a break. Do you think that it could take you 5 years? Do you think it could take you 15, 20 years? Do you think it's going to take you 6 months?
Oh, I'm well into it for at least 5 to 10 years for sure. I'm in it for the long haul. I think a lot of people want like instantaneous gratification, but I'm like willing to do whatever it takes. In regards to budget, I don't want to really disclose too much of that, but
no, I'm not.
I am basically, basically want to do this until I go completely bankrupt.
Well, luckily you're still working. That's a good thing. I'm glad to know that you're still working, because as a parent, I would be slapping you upside the head going, what are you doing? Go back to work. Now there's so many things about golf that you don't necessarily learn from an instructor, but you learn from being out on the golf course, right? And you don't learn from hitting balls pounding balls away at a driving range, that you learn while you're playing with other people, like the parts about being a good golf citizen or about golf etiquette, which I'm not necessarily a huge fan of those traditional things, but a lot of them do make sense once you get into the game for a while. Has any of that been introduced to you yet?
Yeah, so I think that's a great point. And I think that not only my coaches and the YouTube community, because person coming in with no idea what this game is, about like golf etiquette and all that stuff, I've kind of just like wandering, like, hitting balls and like learning about like people walking in people's line. I never really knew that was a thing. And then like where you're supposed to stand in regards to like putting. I knew like you shouldn't be talking. That was like probably the only thing I knew. But like I'll just read the comments and, always good advice. Like, hey, proper etiquette is this. My coaches will like kind of offhand say some stuff like that. And then I'll have like which I think I've been fortunate about, is like having random partners, not only be like willing to like, accept that I'm like filming. I try to go as fast as possible, but like they'll always come like, hey, like, you should kind of do this, and this. And I'll like preface this. This is like some stuff that is not even shown on YouTube. I'll like ask them, hey, like I'm a beginner, like let me know if, some things I'm doing is incorrect or like etiquette wise, because I have no idea. And so off camera, they'll just like, hey, by the way, like try to do this next time, or whatever it may be. Like the other day, I just learned like there shouldn't be like all the balls on the putting green when like people's putting. So like try to put like your marker there as soon as possible. And so like before I think like episode 2 or 3, I'm like just leaving anything there, just kind of like waiting around. And so I think definitely progressing there. And I'm thankful for everyone who's kind of helped me because kind of like deer in headlights type thing.
um, a critical part of playing golf is knowing how long you hit each club. And I got that sense from one of your first rounds. It's like, I like this club. I'm just going to keep hitting it. Whee! And it was like, no, kid, you can't just keep hitting that club thinking, because it's not the club, it's you that does the work. And then the club face is what the difference is between how far the ball goes, as long as you have a consistent swing, which is years away still for you to do that. Have you rounded out your bag? Have you completed? Because I know Mike went through your bag going, yeah, you need this club, you need this club, you need this club. You don't have this. Why do you have that? Have you completed a full set of clubs yet? Do you know how many clubs you're supposed to have in your bag?
Not really, not yet. But right now, I think I have not hybrid, which I probably should get. I have like a 3-wood, a driver, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 56, 60 putter, pitching wedge, and I think it's called like an attack wedge, or a lob wedge, and that's all I have right now. But like even at the courses right now, I'm not too comfortable like hitting like the longer irons or the driver or the 3-wood yet, and so I'm mainly just trying to like optimize my distances and like my game around the other stuff while I learn about the other stuff as well. So a lot more holes in the bag, but I think as my game progresses, I'll probably like invest in more of that stuff.
Do you know that there's a limit of how many clubs you can carry? Are you aware of
No.
that?
No, what is it?
I'm not going to tell everything. You go find out for yourself. 14. 22 clubs. You're just allowed to carry 22 clubs. That was for the audience. So wait, is your 7-iron is your favorite club?
I think 9-iron right now is my favorite club.
And how far do you hit your 9-iron? Do you think not what I'm not asking what's the longest you've ever hit your 9-iron, but what do you? It's like, okay, I've got this distance. That's my 9-iron. Do you know that part yet?
Yeah, I would say my 9-iron's around like 125 to 135. And then but it's so sporadic because I went to this range and I think one of these videos is going to drop soon. And like I hit my 7-iron like 230, and then I hit my 5-iron 275. And it was definitely luck of like hitting it exactly where it needs to be. But I was like, I don't really have a gauge of like what my max distance is or my averages for the longer irons. But whenever I know it's like 140, 150, I'll be like hit a 9 or 8.
Okay. Are you familiar with Bryson DeChambeau? Do you know who he is?
Yeah.
Okay. I've interviewed somebody who was his caddy for a while, and he told me that Bryson DeChambeau hits a 7-iron 220. So are you sure you hit your ball? You hit your 7-iron as a beginner? Are you sure that's how far you hit it? See, that's the thing. No. And even at one point, Mike asked you about the length of a club, and you gave him a range of like 20 yards, and he goes, no, that's not the answer. You need a number when you tell me how far you hit it. I'm
that's
being so mean to you. I apologize.
And this is going to actually be on like a video that's posting soon. And we like asked the people, I was like, how far is this? And we all raged. It was like, 390. And then I hit the 7-iron, the 5-iron. And then we did the math and we're like, wait, this is 275 yards. And so, and I was like confirming with everyone, and they're like, "Yeah, dude, you sent this 5-iron 275 yards." And then we did that for the next one. We're like, "Yeah, you sent the 7 with a 225 on like a 290 or whatever at Balboa." And so I was like triple checking because like my rangefinder isn't great, so I like asked everyone else, and like I drove their drivers by like 50 yards. And so again, like never hit that. Lucky thing, but usually it's not good.
I'm are you sure it's not 175 and 150, not 275? Because that's and was it going straight?
Yeah, it was perfectly straight.
Oh my God.
Because Yeah, and then the next club
You could be a phenom.
I don't know, maybe. I don't, but it was like the best thing I ever. And you'll see, I hit a 100% horrible for because I was just like used my entire body. But I kind of knew it was that because like the next club I hit was a 56 degree on a 390. So I was like, we're not a 56. I think it was a 9. But so, but then like I said, what outlier case? Never done it again. But yeah.
Unbelievable. This is so much fun. So you have not even established a handicap yet. You haven't played enough golf to establish whether you're a 20, 25, 30 or a 10 right now, right?
Yeah, no, I've only been to these 3 par 3s. I think for me, I think I'm going to try to get like a handicap like at the 3-month mark. I want to be able to hit a driver first, and then kind of just understand some other stuff that I've been doing incorrectly, and then I'll go to like a regulation course, and then probably get my score then. Not too far from now, but no handicap yet.
Do you know what it takes to get a handicap?
I know there's like a lot of math that goes into it, but I think there's
and what it means.
I don't really know too much. I just know like it's relative to what you have in relevance to like scratch 0. So like a bogey, I think is like whatever, getting a bogey on average on 18, and then over like 52 holes, or maybe that's wrong. Something of that nature. I don't know.
You need 10. You need to have 10 rounds that you've put into the system before it'll kick back a handicap to you. And and a handicap doesn't show what your scoring is. It shows what your potential is. So it takes of the last 20 rounds that you've played, it takes 8 of them and takes the best 8 and say, okay, this is your potential. So, and a handicap is really based on gambling. Golf is a gambling game. Are you aware of that?
No. What does that mean?
Aha. Well, you'll get out once you get to 18-hole courses and you hit a 5-iron 275 yards. Sorry, I'm laughing. People are going to go, okay, how much money is on this round? What are we paying? What are we playing for? Right? And it's like, and they're going to want to gamble with you. You're going to want to put money on for you to back up your game. And so it's based on your handicap. And a handicap just levels out the playing field so that so if you're a scratch golfer and you're playing with a 10 handicap, then you have to give them 10 strokes, basically, depending on the golf course, because it changes from course to course. All these things I'm throwing at you. And so so that means that if at the end of the round, it's a par 72 course and you shoot 82, because you're a 10 handicap, approximately, but you shoot an 82 and they're a scratch golfer and they shoot 73 or 74, well, then you would take that handicap into consideration. You beat them. So
okay.
Yeah, but you're gonna come across people that are gonna, or that want to play for money, and they're gonna want to gamble, and that's the whole point of golf from the beginning, and that's why the handicap system was created, from my perspective, so that everyone is playing on the level playing field, and you can compare apples to apples here. So that's what that means. Getting to scratch, getting to single digit is hard enough, but you'll hear, and you'll probably do a tremendous amount of research, you'll hear people talk about getting from a 10 to a 7 is hard. Getting from a 5 to a scratch, getting from a 3 to scratch is super hard because you have to be incredibly consistent on shooting par or better on a regular basis. And once you start playing it regularly, you'll either start to hate the game because you're so enthusiastic. I love your enthusiasm. You're so enthusiastic that you haven't had any problems yet. You don't know like all the things that are going to come in and say, this is golf. You can't be that good. The golf gods are watching and we're not going to let you be that way. I'm being a bummer. I'm being an old fart, and I apologize. I don't mean to yuck on your yum and 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 put any dampers on your enthusiasm. I think it's admirable. I just think it's outrageous.
Oh, 100% outrageous.
All right. Well, man, again, what's the name of the channel on YouTube?
It's just my name, Jerome Rufin. But yeah, every episode is a scratch to scratch episode. And yeah, check that out.
It's entertaining. Look it up. It's entertaining. And you'll learn stuff because I even picked up a bunch of things watching. It's like, oh, right. There's reminders in there. There's little new, and golf is nothing but nuance, man. It's just the amount of nuance. And again, I've been doing this for such a long time, and I pick up new stuff all the time that I go, oh, that's going to help me. So I want to thank you for helping me as well.
Oh, well, it's been a pleasure. And hopefully the future content can help you and everyone else watching.